Welcome to a new podcast. This is Everything with Everett, a talk show podcast hosted by Everett McConnaughey from Boise, Idaho. The purpose of this production is to share thoughts, voices, and information to further a discussion on who we are as individuals, communities, and a global presence. Everything with Everett is open to all topics of discussion: faith, religion, history, finances, and, well, everything. Follow, like, listen, and subscribe. Visit everettmcconaughey.com.
Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Said we don't need to play with them like just me. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Said we will need to play with the light just me. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Hey!
That is Ochanica by Jingle Punks. Got that from the wonderful YouTube music library. Welcome to the week of Hanukkah. I am not Jewish, but in light of this year's events and the last 4 years' events, I think that it's important to visually and verbally stand up for our brothers and sisters of the Jewish faith. And I would like to wish everybody who is celebrating Hanukkah a happy Hanukkah. And that was my little homage to them. I also have a video that I found from, I think it's Israel TV, that talks about the proper placement of a Hanukkah and how to light it, and really answered I really didn't know a lot about the Jewish faith. I mean, I've heard of some things, but I definitely took time this week to educate myself on some things, and I think that would be beneficial for all of us if we just, look into a couple things and just try to understand what means something to them, why it means something to them. I think that it's beneficial to try to understand where other people are coming from. And there's really nothing wrong with their religion, their faith. I just don't understand this whole anti-Semitism thing. Like, everything's just so wholesome, and even if you're not Jewish, it's not your life. Leave them alone. Let them, I don't know. It irritates me. It really does. Anyway, so I would like to, let me pull up my thing here to adjust this. There we are. All right. I am going to switch over to it's from Shabbat.org, and this is about lighting, placing, and selecting a menorah.
Welcome to Jewish.tv DIY. Today we're going to learn how to light a Hanukkah menorah. Here's our menorah. It has 8 branches representing the 8 different nights of Hanukkah, and we have an extra one called the shamash, which we're going to use to light the rest of the candles. There are many different types of menorahs out there, so you shouldn't have a tough time finding a special one for your home. One thing that's important to remember is that the menorah should be in a straight, even line, meaning it shouldn't be in a zigzag, one shouldn't be higher than the next, or in a circle. The shamash, however, specifically should be distinct from all the rest of the candles. In theory, we can use any flammable substance for the Hanukkah lights, but practically speaking, most people use candles or oil. We're going to use oil, specifically olive oil. Since the miracle was performed using olive oil, this is the most beautiful way to perform the mitzvah. Now, where should we be lighting the menorah? As you see, we've placed ours in the doorway leading to the main room of the house. It's also on the left side, opposite to the mezuzah. There's a couple different customs, one being to place it near a window, other people place it at the front door. Either way, it should be between 1 and 3 feet off the ground. On the first night, we light one candle, placing it on the far right of the menorah. Then we fill it up with oil. We light our shamash. We'll now say our blessings and then light the first candle. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem bizman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'echeyanu v'kiyamahanu v'higiyanu lizman hazeh. On the second night, we light 2 flames. Again, we place our first light to the far right, but this time we add another candle immediately to the left. On the second night, and all subsequent nights, we only say the first 2 blessings. Now this is important. We light the newly added flame first. This means that we light in the opposite direction that we've placed them. The lighting of the menorah follows the same pattern every night. So on the 8th night, we light 8 flames. Again, we add the candles from the right to the left, and then light from the left to the right, with the newest candle being lit first. So when do we light the candles? The custom of many communities is to light the menorah shortly after sunset. In other communities, the menorah is kindled after nightfall. Either way, the menorah must contain enough fuel to burn for at least 30 minutes after nightfall. The standard Hanukkah candles only last approximately 30 minutes. If using those candles, then light after nightfall. You can light even later, as long as other people in the house are awake to see. On Friday, however, you must light the menorah before sunset, because you can no longer light the menorah once it has already become Shabbat. For the same reason, you have to wait until after nightfall on Saturday night, when Shabbat is over, before you light the menorah. Both men and women are obligated to participate in the candle lighting, but different communities have different customs. Some communities have the custom that every man, woman, and child will light their own menorah, while other communities have the custom where the head of the household will light while everybody is present. And that's it. Now that you know how to do it, it's time to do it yourself.
Today is a great day to start a podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more, within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Let's create something great together. All right. Excuse me. So going forward from here, continuing on the anti-Semitism Jewish theme in the week of Hanukkah, which ends in 3 days. We are right just past the middle of it at the time of recording. Not sure when will be when you get to listen to this episode. But one of the other things that happened this week was Idaho, for a long time, was known as a sanctuary for the Aryan nations, white supremacists. Up north, there was a compound back way before my time that I heard about. There was a bunch of Aryan nation people up there, conservative, kind of like last holdout kind of a deal, borderline preppers situation. And the state bought the land that they were on up near Coeur d'Alene and turned it into some state-owned stretch of land, got rid of their buildings, got rid of everything. So Idaho's done a lot, to my knowledge, throughout my childhood to kind of distance ourselves from that Aryan nation, white supremacist mindset. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that are moving to this state, hoping that we still are a sanctuary. And we saw a bit of that this week. Boise is home to the only Anne Frank Memorial in the United States of America. We were one of only 25 places, I believe, 20 or 25, that received a sapling from the tree that was outside the attic where Anne Frank was in hiding for a year from the Nazis during World War II. Boise received a sapling from that tree. So we have a piece of a tree that grew during her life here in Boise. Anyway, Boise has the only Anne Frank Memorial, Human Rights Memorial in the country. And the other night, on the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the monument was vandalized. But person put a bunch of stickers on it with swastikas. One in particular on top of her Bible. Like there's a bronze statue with her looking out the window, holding her journal behind her back. Someone put a sticker on it that has a swastika and it says, "We are everywhere." Truly disgusting. I hope that they are just passers through that thought this was some sick, funny prank. And if they reside in this state, I hope they get caught, and I hope they get dealt with to the fullest extent of our legal system. So I would like to share some things from KTVB, the 208, Brian Holmes, about this week's events in regards to the Anne Frank Memorial, and then if we have time, some other issues as well that happened this week.
Is Idaho too great for hate? The answer to that doesn't seem to be a full-throated yes right now. I mean, that too great for hate ideology is something the community has embraced over the years, but even the Idaho legislature didn't believe in that mantra enough to put those words on a license plate this past session. And vandalism at the Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial this week certainly sends a clear message. I don't know how much clearer someone could be. They placed Nazi swastikas all over the memorial in honor of Holocaust victim Anne Frank. Joe Paris spoke with the Wasmuth Center for Human Rights. He asked them about the attack on the memorial and the tough conversations it is forcing us to have.
We are the heart of the city, and this has been a direct attack on that heart.
Early Tuesday, 9 Nazi swastika stickers were found placed across the Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial in Boise. The memorial belongs to the Wasmuth Center for Human Rights and serves as a place for education and reflection.
There becomes a point when too much is too much.
Dan Prinzing is the executive director of the Wasmuth Center. He says the specific placement of the stickers is notable.
The one that becomes so poignant is the one that is placed right on Anne's diary, right there on the statue. That one just hurts. And for us, this has just become such a sad day.
The memorial honors the memory, legacy, and wisdom found within the diary of Holocaust victim Anne Frank. Frank penned a diary while in hiding from Nazi persecution as Jewish people across Europe were targeted and executed in concentration camps. The Boise site is the only Anne Frank memorial in the United States, and it served as an educational park designed to engage visitors to think, talk, and respond to human rights issues. Prinzing says it can create tough topics of conversation, like, who are we as a community?
When people have asked, is this who we are? I've always countered that. But now you really begin to question that when such can occur, when such has been emboldened, and it doesn't stop, then you'd have to question it, how do we stand up to hate?
Prinzing says the stickers have a direct and simple message that he's thought a lot about.
Proudly proclaiming, they are everywhere. They are here. Well, then we do have to question, what is the moral fiber of our community? Where are we at the core?
With that said, though, Prinzing knows there is so much good in our community. He says that good and those who are willing to stand up and speak out for what is right cannot be silent any longer.
Just as the stickers have said, they're everywhere. Well, yes, good people are everywhere too. And good people now need to step up and stand up and say, this is wrong. This is not tolerated in our community. We are better than this.
Boise Mayor Lauren McLean says it's important to set the example of what the city of Boise really is.
It's not okay, but it's on us as a community to continue to demonstrate that this is not who we are by being willing to reckon with our history and to have a frank conversation about our future so that we can be sure to protect what it is that's so special about this place and ensure that the things that we love don't change and that we remain the welcoming, open, and connected community that we have shown for decades that we are.
After seeing the news, Boise resident Tony Lawson placed flowers and a message where a swastika was placed earlier. She tells me that she is one of the vast majority who chooses love over hate.
We're going to have to get louder. It's also telling us for the Wassmuth Center, our work is not done. That not only is what we do necessary, it's probably never been more important than at this moment. When you hear it, when you see it, don't be silent. Stand up.
Obviously, Joe, timing with Hanukkah starting tomorrow at sundown has to be part of this story. But what is the status of the police investigation into this?
Yeah, Boise police is investigating the placement of those 9 swastika stickers. I'm told by a BPD spokesperson that there is some video surveillance in the area that they are reviewing. They're going through to see if there's any clues from there. Dan Prinzing from the Wassmuth Center, who we just heard from, he told me that they're going to look into investing, though, into a security system specifically for that Anne Frank Memorial. As we've reported in the past, Brian, this is not the first time that it's been targeted with vandalism. Notably in 2017, there was somebody that spray painted swastikas. Prinzing tells me this afternoon, though, Brian, that this feels different this time.
Yeah, and there's been little moments of those kind of things all the way through this. And we asked this question in the newsroom. We're surprised there wasn't a security system there. But we also have to ask ourselves, why would we need one? But here we are. Thank you, Joe. All right, earlier, we heard from Dan Prinzing with the Wassmuth Center for Human Rights. The Wassmuth Center, founded in 1996 for the purpose of constructing a memorial to human rights. That vision became a reality when the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial opened to the public in 2002. Kim Fields gives us a look back.
The Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial in downtown Boise is the only memorial of its kind in the United States. The world-class educational park opened in 2002 with hundreds of Idahoans attending the dedication, including longtime human rights leader Marilyn Schuler.
Human rights are hard won. We still have a lot of work to do, and I hope that this is a site where some of that work goes on.
The memorial was truly a labor of love. It took 7 years of planning and contributions from thousands of Idahoans. But the idea to build a permanent memorial to offset Idaho's negative image as a place of intolerance and hatred was finally a reality.
The words and the life story of Anne Frank were, for many of us, like a gateway to connect with a whole spectrum of human rights issues and concerns.
Since its opening in 2002, the memorial has welcomed hundreds of thousands of visitors and students to better understand the human rights challenges our communities, our country, and our world face today. At the heart of the memorial, the life-size bronze statue of Anne Frank, a bouquet of flowers and messages of hope left at her statue today. She is cast as pulling back an imaginary curtain and gazing out a window from the family's attic hiding place in Amsterdam, her diary held in her hand. School children from all over Idaho washed cars, sold candy, and collected pennies and quarters to pay for the $40,000 statue.
How everyone has the right to live, no matter what their religion or their ethnic background.
Both the triumphs and tragedies of the human story are on display here. In every quote and every idea, visitors see the profound power of a single voice or bold action to overcome great odds and alter the course of history. As Anne Frank famously wrote, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart."
Really kind of need to believe that these days. Well, part of the Wasmuth Center's work is to provide educational programs and resources both at the memorial and off-site in classrooms and communities throughout Idaho. Online, they reach national and international audiences in the hopes that we must never forget. This past legislative session, Senator Sheree Buckner-Webb sponsored a bill to create a new specialty license plate that would read, "Too Great for Hate." Proceeds would benefit the Wasmuth Center. The bill passed in the Idaho Senate, but failed in the House. Some lawmakers said Idaho had too many specialty plates already, even though earlier in the session, the House voted to approve a Choose Life specialty plate.
Thank you, KTVB and Brian Holmes, for all that information about the Anne Frank Memorial, given that this week is Hanukkah. Truly devastating to hear all that information. And moving on, hopefully we have enough time to play this out. Transitioning on to radical conservatives protesting at the homes, the private homes of our Central District Health board members while they're voting on what to do to save public lives. Apparently, these conservatives have a right to not wear a mask because they want a haircut. And apparently people who have a home don't have rights to privacy, and they believe in protesting outside their house.
Well, if you had to pick a volume, a level of discordant discourse taking shape in Idaho right now, where would you put it? At least above 5, maybe near 9? Well, hopefully our dial goes to 11, because right now it's hitting decibel levels we haven't seen in the Gem State in recent memory. This pandemic, which had the potential to show our character, has certainly revealed a lot of people's in full. Protesters disrupting local businesses over mask requirements. School board members resigning because parents can be, well, let's just say, a bit much. Doors broken at the state capitol as activists tried to force their way inside during a special session of the legislature. And public health meetings being canceled because some health order objectors decided to take it too far.
Madam Chair, Dr. Peterman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got a call from the mayor, and it sounds like the police, and she is requesting that we stop the meeting at this time because of the intense level of protesters in the parking lot and a concern for police safety and staff safety, as well as the protesters that are at some of our board members' homes right now. So I'm not sure, Madam Chair, what we need to do other than I think we do need to cancel the meeting.
Just an update. I just went out and talked with BPD. There's been one person detained, but they indicated that they have the situation under control.
Sadly, it's not under control. It is not under control at my house, and it's not under control at Diana's house.
No, it wasn't under control at Diana's house, as in Ada County Commissioner Diana Lachiondo, who is also a board member of the Central District Health. Last night, at least 3 people showed up at her house, stood on the sidewalk, and I guess hoped to disrupt her participation in that CDH meeting. They blasted air horns, they banged on buckets, set off their car alarms, even played clips from the movie Scarface, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. All of that was bad enough. But even worse, Lachiondo wasn't there. She was at her office in the Ada County Courthouse. Inside her house, though, were her 2 young boys, alone and scared, which is why she asked to leave the meeting and rush home to her kids.
We're going to take care of you.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment? My 12-year-old son is home by himself right now, and there are protesters banging outside the door. Okay, I'm going to go home and make sure he's okay, so I will reconnect with you when I get there.
I just felt so helpless.
No lockdown.
I didn't realize at the time that my mom had taken our dog for a quick walk, and actually both my kids were there.
I think what Diana needs is a little more horn.
So it was my 12-year-old and my 8-year-old huddled together in my son's room, and they were scared. And I felt so helpless, and I felt like I let them down for not being there. And, you decide to run for office, and that's a big step to take. It's a huge step, and it's scary, but you just never imagine that it's going to go to this level for your family.
You guys, sometimes I admit I feel a little bit aggressive and pissed off.
And, that's how I felt. And I just worry about my kids like everybody does. I think it's a loss of innocence. I'm a 4th generation Idahoan. I'm born and raised here in Boise, and especially my oldest, went through a period of time when he was maybe hearing things on the news or watching, TV, and he would be scared about robbers or whatever. And I would always tell him, this is a safe place. Boise is a very safe place, and you don't have to worry. And that loss of innocence, not just that, maybe it isn't a safe place, but that we're specifically being targeted is scary.
You minced no words with this. You held nothing back with this post that you wrote. I kind of want to read a little section that you posted. I am sad. I am tired. I fear that in my choosing to hold public office, my family has too often paid the price. Though I was born and raised in Idaho and have chosen to raise my own family here, I increasingly don't recognize this place. There is an ugliness and cruelty in our national rhetoric that is reaching a fevered pitch here at home, and that should worry us all. You still feel that way, I assume, right?
I do. In the 90s, we had this really terrible kind of national reputation that didn't really fit all of Idaho. It fit a small, very small portion of the populace. And I know that this is not representative of who we are as Idaho.
That if you don't wear a mask, you're going to die. That is not science.
But it increasingly is so loud and so just dominant. And it's just not who we are. It's not who I've ever known of my fellow Idahoans. And no one is excited to have to be considering orders. I want people to just do the right thing voluntarily. Just do the right thing voluntarily. I'm not excited about any of this. But we're really stuck in a rock and a hard place here. So many of the questions or the comments that I get are about individual health and the mortality rate. And well, I'm certainly concerned about any one person's individual, outcomes or health. What we are concerned about is the hospitals tipping into crisis standards of care. And I don't think people really understand what that means. And it is not good. It is a scoring system that decides who gets treatment or not. And for us to tip into that, and that's something that's reserved for wartime, that's unacceptable to me.
This was not anywhere near what you guys expected when you got into this. That's the understatement of the year, I'm sure.
Yeah, septic system permits were the most controversial thing up until about March. So, yeah. And we've taken it on, and I am grateful to be in a position to serve. And I'm not afraid of making hard decisions, but it has come at a big cost to my family, and I'm just sad about that.
It's obviously wearing on you from last night and today. How do you get through? I mean, how does something like this affect you in the short term or even the long term?
Well, I'm almost out of office, so I've got a few weeks left, and I, said I would do my very best right up until the end, and I'm going to try. So that's where I'm at, and I have the strength of my family, and I have my faith, and I'll just do the very best I can.
As if this was a one-time incident, last night was the second time protesters showed up at Lachiondo's house. They've shown up again today for the third time. Boise police had to show up to escort Lachiondo out of her house to safety because she was afraid. This is what we've come to at this point. The next scheduled CDH board meeting isn't until next Tuesday, but that could certainly change. No word on the agenda just yet. But Boise police, they did show up to Lachiondo's house last night. By the time they got there, the protesters were gone. They were only there for about 20 minutes. Lachiondo's neighbors did sign disturbing the peace citations, and Boise police is in the process of getting 3 arrest warrants for those who showed up at her house. In her post from this morning that we referenced there, Lachiondo called out the governor for this patchwork of health orders around the state, among other things. She's asking Governor Brad Little to rise to the moment and lead. Do something rather than just say something. We wanted to ask the governor about this, but we were told he wasn't available today. He has a press conference scheduled for tomorrow. And I know there are some of you out there saying, we aren't covering both sides of this story. What about what the protesters were protesting? Believe me when I say there are not two sides to showing up to cause alarm at an elected official or a volunteer board member's house. There's not. And those protesters outside the CDH building during the meeting, well, they were given a lot of leeway. They could have been trespassed off the property, but they weren't. All of this, all of what has happened over the last several months in Idaho, in Boise in the last week, in the last 24 hours, has been a lot. A lot of negativity, a lot of people scared, a lot of people worried about where we're going from here. The bad news is getting headlines right now. We know this. But it's also worth knowing the good. It's worth remembering, like what replaced the reprehensible stickers left at the Anne Frank Memorial last night, or Tuesday night, or today, I should say, the good and those who promote it. Like it says, we are everywhere, and we choose love.
Please remember to choose how you represent the community, your state, your religion, your family. Uphold the values that matter most to you and make sure you're calling out the things that don't. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope you have a great time wherever you are. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. There's a YouTube version and a podcast version, whatever suits your fancy. You can find both at everettmcconaughey.com. And be sure to subscribe and join me on Facebook. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Have a good one.